Hi, in this video we'll be discussing regarding home science practical topics. There was a previous video that I uploaded. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link it. You can check at the top. The previous video was about the home science practical 1. This video will be about home science practical 2, that is for NIS 10th. Now basically the practical 2 isn't very lengthy like the one we had for practical 1, but then it's just that you have little tasks to do because it's all about understanding fabric, which is a chapter that you'll be learning, that is chapter 10 in home science. For NIS 10th you would be knowing that there is 1 to 22 chapter, and out of that 1 to 22 chapter, there's this chapter 9, 10, and 11 that is linked to fabrics and fiber and stuff. So this experiment or this practical that we're going to do is basically relating to those chapters. Okay. The book that you have used for practical 1, the same book, make sure in the index you fill the experiment number 2 and you start off with the practical. Okay, so please make sure in your practical book, you write the heading practical number 2. Below practical number 2, make sure you write the aim. Now, the aim for this practical is to identify fabrics through visual inspection. And here we are going to understand two types of fabric. One is woven fabric and the other one is knitted fabric. Okay, now in the chapters that is 9, 10 and 11, you will be understanding fiber, how fiber is converted to fabric, and you'll also be learning the different types of fabrics. Okay, now this practical 2 is all about understanding fabric and two category, okay, woven and knitted. So that is the aim. Now what are the objectives? Now the objective is, after you complete this practical, what you will be gaining from this. So after you finish this practical exercise, you will be able to distinguish, or you will be able to identify what a knitted fabric is and what a woven fabric is. So that is visually, if you get some fabric, okay, of any of these categories, you will be easily identifying which one is woven and which one is knitted. So you write down the objective, that is identifying knitted fabrics and woven fabric, and that too through visual inspection. Then the next is materials required. So to do this experiment, you have to collect few things, you have to keep few things ready. Okay, so in materials required, what you have to do is collect fabric pieces from different sources, such as leftover fabrics at home or from tailor, old banyans, t-shirts, socks, or sweaters. Okay, so to perform this experiment or to do this experiment, what we have to do is we have to collect fabric pieces. So as I told you, we will be trying to understand knitted and woven fabric. So the best thing is try to collect samples of these two category of fabrics. Okay, so to collect these two categories, what you can do is you can find out fabrics, or you can get some fabrics from your home which is not being used. Okay, or what you can do is you can visit a tailoring shop, which is actually the best option because they'll have a lot of leftover fabrics there. And this knitted fabric and woven fabric, you can collect it from them. So, or if you don't have that option, old banyans are there, t-shirts are there, socks are there, sweaters are there, you can actually use them, which is not meant to be used in future. Then procedure. So after you collect this fabric, this two category, what you have to do is the samples you need to cut. So in procedure, what you'll write down is cut out samples measuring 5 centimeter by 5 centimeter from any of the above sources. Observe the characteristics given and criteria for selection carefully. Select one knitted sample and one woven sample. Paste these samples in boxes as shown below in your practical file. Record the difference between these samples. Okay, so what we have to do is, after we collect these fabrics, so as I told you, please make sure you're trying to get fabric pieces of knitted and woven. Okay, now as much as possible. After that, each of these, what you are supposed to do is you have to cut it into 5 centimeter by 5 centimeter. That is width and height to be 5 centimeter. Okay. Now, once you have cut this, what we have to do is this two fabric, we need to see it visually and we need to understand the characteristics relating to it. So one sample of knitted fabric, one sample of woven fabric we'll be taking. Okay. And we will be using this in the observation table. So this fabric that we have collected, we need to paste it in the box. That is, we'll be making a table for observation. In that, you're supposed to paste this sample. Okay, and you have to understand the characteristics, and based on that, you have to record the difference. The procedure basically tends to tell you that after you have collected and after you have visually inspected these two samples, what do you understand from it? What is the difference between the two? That difference you have to record it in the observation table. So basically, in this side of your page, you'll write down practical number, aim, observation, materials required, and procedure. Now, suppose if you don't have enough space, make sure in the next ruled line part, you can actually continue this. Now, in the white area, what you'll do is you'll actually make this table. Now, in the table, what you have to first write is you have to write down the heading as knitted and the next heading to be woven. So here basically they are trying to make us understand what is the criteria for selecting a knitted fabric and what is the criteria for selecting a woven fabric. Now, if you search internet, that is through Google, you will be getting a lot of pictures linked to these two topics. So I would suggest if you can get them, please try to take it, print it, cut it and paste it as I have done here. Okay, so let's start by seeing the nature of these two fabrics. So when you talk about knitted, okay, so the picture clearly shows the edges. So for knitted, if you see, the edges are curled up. See this? Okay, and if you talk about the woven, it basically just lies flat. See the edge? It is just a flat string here. Now, when you talk about knitted, it's interconnected loops. You can see how it is. See, it is interconnected loops here. See, okay. And here you will see that in woven, it is these yarns are there, okay, which is actually arranged. See how it is arranged. One, it is above and the other, it is inside. See, in and out. Okay, and when it comes to knitted, it's a single yarn, okay, that runs throughout the fabric. So it's just a single string of yarn, and using that we are going to knit the fabric. When it comes to woven, what you have to understand is you'll have strips, or you can say yarns, okay, and it will be arranged in a way that you can basically wrap and weft consecutively. See how it goes in and out. So you have these yarns which need to be arranged in a way that you can actually weave it. Okay, so criteria for selection is clear. So you understand how you will identify a knitted one. So whenever you have a knitted fabric, the edges are going to be curled up. You will see that, you know, there are loops and these loops are interconnected. Okay, and it's just a single yarn that runs throughout the fabric. When you see a woven fabric, you first, when you notice the edges, you'll see that the edges are very flat. Okay, and it's arranged in a visible format, if you notice. Okay, and you will see that, okay, there are these yarns, okay, which is uh, it's not one single yarn which is actually used for the entire fabric. You'll see number of yarns, okay, and that they are actually being arranged in a specific pattern, like one inside the other. See here, you can notice this is above, it goes inside this, again above, this is below it, and so on. So basically, I hope you understood the criteria for selection. Then comes table for observation. Now see here, make the table and then write down woven sample, knitted sample, and you have to stick the sample. So as per the procedure, if you remember, we said 5 by 5 centimeter. So you have to collect the fabric, one woven sample, one knitted sample. Please collect the sample, and this sample you cut it by 5 centimeter by 5 centimeter, and you paste it here. And after that, we have to record the observation. Okay, so in the record criteria part for the woven sample, 3 points we'll have to write. Okay, by seeing the sample itself, what you're able to understand is that in a woven fabric, multiple yarns cross each other, and they cross at right angles, and because they cross at right angles, they form a grain like pattern. The second point that you're going to write it is not stretchable. Okay, so lengthwise, very difficult to stretch. Widthwise, there is a very minute variation that you'll be noticing. Then when you wad up a woven fabric, it usually wrinkles. It's like, when you try to make a ball of this woven fabric, and when you squeeze it and when you release it, you'll notice that there is, wrinkles on the fabric. So that is regarding the woven sample. For the knitted sample, what you have to write down is again 3 points. Okay, so in knit fabric, okay, there is one continuous yarn which is looped repeatedly, forming a tiny row of braids. Okay, so what you have to understand, it's just one single yarn that we are using. Loops have been formed, and repeatedly these loops have been formed. Now, when knitted fabric is stretched along its width, it will stretch significantly. So the second point, what you have to understand is when you try stretching a knitted fabric, it basically stretches. Now, this is different from the woven fabric. This is the major difference. See, so the second point, what you will be writing, when knit fabric is stretched along its width, it will stretch significantly. So basically, knitted fabrics stretches easily. That's the second point. The third point is when you ball up a knit fabric in hand, it crushes easily, and when released, the fabric springs back into shape. So with this point, what you have to understand is this knitted fabric, if you try to squeeze it as a ball in your hand, okay, and when you release it, you'll notice that it will go back, it will uh, retrain as its original shape, and so you will not find much of wrinkles in knitted fabrics. So this is what you are supposed to write down. Please do not forget here, the samples need to be pasted. Make sure one woven sample, one knitted sample, 5 centimeter by 5 centimeter, cut it and paste it here. It is not a picture, it is a sample that you're supposed to paste it. Then after this questions basically given at the end is for you to understand, for Viva, what kind of questions can be asked, or, what do you understand from the entire experiment that you have done. So in related questions, the first one is state two differences between knitted and woven fabric. So we have seen the sample, we have identified very distinctive differences relating to the two samples. Okay, and that is what you have to write down. So in woven, we have noticed that there are multiple yarns which actually cross each other, and that is at a right angle. Okay, and because it is woven, okay, the fabric is actually quite firm and they do not stretch. But then such type of materials or fabrics, they wrinkle easily. So these 3 points which we already discussed in the previous one, that is what you're supposed to write. So multiple yarns cross each other at right angles. Weaving gives firm fabric and so they do not stretch. It wrinkles easily. Then when it comes to knitted, in knitted, what we have to understand is there's a continuous yarn and it is looped repeatedly. And such type of fabrics can be stretched easily, but then it will not wrinkle, and knitted fabrics are usually seen for casual wears. Okay, so continuous yarn is looped repeatedly. Knitted fabrics can be stretched easily. It does not wrinkle easily. It is used for making casual wear. So this is what you're supposed to write for knitted. Now, the second question is list type of weaves. Okay, so there are different types of weaving here. So plain weave is there, twill weave is there, satin weave is there. So basically examples have also been put up over here. So when you talk about muslin cloth, voile or poplin cloth, that basically has a plain weave. If you're talking about a denim cloth or a jeans, it will have a twill weave. If you're talking about formal garments, such as garments that is actually being designed using satin clothes, which is for formal wears, okay, that will have a satin weave, and you will see that it has slightly a glossy or a shiny kind of a texture. Okay, so for list of weaves, 3 types of weaves, and for each of this weave, you have to write the example as well. In the next part, we have to actually show the pictures. Okay, so knitted fabric, woven fabric, if you have an actual sample, very well, you can actually use that sample here. So you can collect 2 samples. If you do not have a sample, you can actually print pictures and you can paste it, but make sure for the observation table here you are supposed to cut pieces of fabric, woven and knitted, and you have to paste it. That is compulsory. In the next part, that is here, if you want, you can actually use pictures. That is fine. So find a knitted fabric picture, woven fabric picture, paste it here. Then this is the list of weaves. Okay, so for list of weaves, if you want, we can actually mention the headings so that becomes way easier. Okay, so list of weaves. Plain weave is there, twill weave is there, satin weave is there. See, it clearly shows how a plain weave looks like, how a twill weave looks like, and what a satin weave looks like. Okay, and here I have also given you the example, that is muslin cloth. Basically, you'll see that the garments for kids and all would be used for using a plain weave, that is a muslin cloth. Okay, denim, you can print out pictures relating to the same, and you can also use satin formal wear pictures also for the satin wear. This pictures, you may find it on the internet, so it should not be difficult. Type the heading is list types of weaves. Okay, cut this pictures, print it, paste it. So hopefully you understood what should be written for practical 2, aim, observation, materials required, procedure. This should come in the ruled side, and as I said, if you do not have space in the rule side, make sure in the next rule part you'll be writing. Do not write it on the white area. Then after that, what you can do is criteria for selection. Make sure it has to be written in the white side of your book. That's a plain page you have to write down. Make sure you try to get pictures similar to this, print it and paste it. Okay, table of observation, make sure the sample is being pasted and the observation relating to it is actually being recorded here. After that, in the rule side, you will write related questions. Okay, 2 questions have been given. State 2 differences between knitted and woven fabrics. List types of weaves. Okay, so that you make a note of it, and after that put up the pictures: knitted fabrics, woven fabrics, and list type of weaves. And here you finish your practical 2. Okay, so once this is done, make sure submit it to your teachers, take the signature from them, make sure you have mentioned the details regarding practical 2 in your index. Okay, and soon practical 3 video will be uploaded. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe so that you receive proper notification relating to updates on the home science and NICE 10th practical videos. Thank you.